Well, we'd like to share what we know. Being out here a little bit and things, it doesn't do any good if we retain all the information and the residents are trying to, struggling, to come. So it's good that we get a chance to come a couple times a year and, to share what we know and kind of talk about the things that, that are current in the landscaping activity and specifically for Paul Canadian. So I'm Paul Bradley, and I'm with Allied Landscape Services, and we have maintained your common areas in this development, not from the beginning, but from for quite a while. So we've seen some of the transition and some of the things that have happened with various plants, plus trees, and what works, what doesn't work, and the CCMC has been very instrumental in keeping the plants updated on recommended or accepted plants, like hydrants. Making sure that we keep it with the current and grow. All right. Okay. So, there's just a lot of different things that are happening, with the way that this used to be I thought like a map. It used to be just nothing but, desert and a lot of rills, and it was the whole place was formed by flash floods, and thank goodness we've had some rain lately. And when I saw this, I was like so surprised because it was at a guy that's been a developer out here for a long time. I saw this, oh my gosh, well, it's no wonder that some of the things are happening because we created this environment. I suppose it's the same in any desert environment, pretty much anywhere. When you, turn it into subdivisions and planting plants and it just changes the atmosphere a lot. And we've seen it at times. It hasn't happened because we haven't had a lot of rain lately until just recently. But over the earlier years, we had tremendous flash flooding. And a lot of it started when it would be like a slow rain, and it would be during the monsoonal period of, like July and August and September. And then it would just like stop at Coral Canyon, like these clouds would be coming over, and they just reaching home instead of bouncing off of the hydrophobic, or the ground that would not absorb water, hydrophobic ground. It would just, instead of bouncing off, it would just stop, and then it would just dump because of all the trees and lawns, and so we kind of changed the environment a little bit with the subdivision. And it goes back quite a way. So we kind of watched it for a long time. We really wondered, like we had a couple of years that were pretty drought, and then it looked like it was starting to come back, and then we had it again. And it's the longest 5-year span, or the least amount of rainfall in this last 5 years that I've seen since I've been here. I've only been here 30 years, but it's still, it really does impact our environment. And what that does, and that's the first topic we'll start with, is it impacts, of course, how our watering practices are. So when these systems become dated, and the plant material is growing up bigger, and we've got welcome. You want to sign in? That's perfect. Oh, we're gonna have a big crowd tonight. I think maybe fall is always a little bit more better attended. But when we have dated landscapes, the irrigation systems are labored for a very long time, and they're wearing out, and the plant materials growing, and the root systems are growing, and and we have just some of the things environmental that are happening when we had a lot of plant material to a given region where there wasn't before. It makes sort of a host, if you will, for different types of bugs. Some of the bugs and pests that we've had have been in Washington County for a very long time. But, you know, with the growth of the entire county, we got a lot more, incidents of, different types of bugs, you know, pests, that we haven't had in the past. So we'll kind of go over some of those, tonight. But the first part that we want to welcome.
You're popular today.
Case, you know,
You can-
this might be one of the most, yeah, it might be a record.
Thank you.
So the first topic that we're going to cover is what are the water practices that we want to work on for this fall. And so what we want to first and foremost do is understand that what's really awesome about fall is it's a great time to root lawns and any other plants, right? It's a beautiful time. So, like with lawns, you want to be sure, especially with this rain, you want to be sure that when you're watering, you're only watering it if it really looks like it's drought stressed or it's looking like that blue color. Who has lawns in here? Just real quickly. 3? Okay, so we won't spend a lot of time here. Who has been living here for more than 10 years? 5 years? More than 5? Oh, yeah, okay, 10. How many under 5? The rest? Okay. Okay, good. So with the lawns, this is a great time to do a good, build your root structure. Because we're not going into the heat, we're coming out of it, but the nights are cooler. And if you drought an area of your lawn, you can actually, not worry about it too much. You can just, let it chase the water, get the roots develop better instead of like we have to do in the summertime where we're just having almost water all the time, every day. So if we get to this point, we want to build that root structure. Why? Because, all through the winter months, if we can build a decent root structure in that first 6 inches of our soil profile, we'll be able to sustain those heat or hot temperatures. And it really kind of goes along with any of the other plant material too, especially new plants or perennial, flowering type perennials. And if I go too fast, just raise your hand, say slow down, or, we'll have a little bit of time for questions when we get through some of the stuff or at each, after we finish each topic. But, so this is that time. So lawns, if it, don't water it unless it absolutely needs it. In fact, I was sharing with somebody that lives over off of Highlands and about their automatic timers. Who has an automatic timer on the phone? Okay, so those timers are great backups. Like you have to call a babysitter in to take care of it, or a dog sitter or something like that. When you're home and in town, and who all is like seasonal?
Yeah, we are. That's what we're trying to ask, I'm trying to ask.
Well, we have, this is the second home, you're here during the good months.
Sometimes who's saying how in here?
I don't like to use the word silver because that's not necessarily true. But when you're home, the idea is to really turn off your timer. If you're able to be home during the day, during the week, it's the best thing you can do is turn your timer off. And just like monitor it manually, like turn it on and see what it's doing. And don't let it just run automatic unless you got to go away for a weekend and it's going to be hot. You're more worried about it, especially with lawns. But with others, and there's only 3 people or 4 people with lawns. So that's really the thing that burns up when, your system's off. The other was like right now, nobody's water timer should be on right now at all. Like, when I say it should be, or it shouldn't be on, you could get away with it not being on is what I'm saying, is because, right now we got good soil saturation from rain. Did we get plenty of rain out here?
We have a lot of plants, so that's the kind of plants, shouldn't we have this on, that's why our landscaper, 4 years ago, we are on Copper Creek Drive and Back Canyon, was no Highland. And so we have lots of plants in the front and the back and the side. It's on automatic timer. I was going to ask you, should we turn it off? Lots of plants, like
Yes.
those big palm, not palm trees and different plants, different flowering. It's devouring.
When we've had a substantial rainfall, you know, like if we see it coming and it starts coming, just turn your timer off. You just leave it off until it's done.
Oh,
And then you can still leave it off, and because it's still, if it's saturated well enough, everything got water better than it's been watered with your system. I can guarantee you that much. If we go back to old school irrigation, right? It was done with flood irrigation. They would flood the area, we'd flood areas, and everything would get watered, you know, like all the soil profile would get completely and uniformly hydrated. And then you'd let it dry out a little ways, and those roots, you know, they weren't baby, they'd have to chase that water, so they were sustainable through drought periods or, you know, in between the watering times. When we put these timers in, what we've done is we've kind of given ourselves a false sense of plant health security, because we're watering whether it needs it or not. And when we're watering with our treated water systems, we're actually adding, you know, all of the purification chemicals and processes that they make to make it drinkable, to make it potable. We're adding that into the soil, and it stays in the soil as each time we water. If you've seen the calcium buildup around, you know, faucets and things like that, then you know that that's actually building up in the soil too. So we kind of have a thing around here in southern Utah. We have all these crazy elements. We have great weather for a lot of plants, you know, that, you know, we can't have up north. And then we have some plants that we can't have because it gets cold, pretty cold in the winter sometimes. The soil is horrible here. And so we've got these varying changes that happen all the time. And we like to say that if you can grow something here in southern Utah, and I want to say specifically at Coral Canyon, because some of the soils here are so horrific, you can grow anything anywhere. So when we're adding to the soil, you know, like these chemicals, each time we water a little and often, we're changing some of the chemistry of the plants, or the, you know, the shrubs, plants, trees. Yes.
So while you're on this, our hoses that are connected to our homes, we have soft water. Does that go through our hose to our toilets?
Generally speaking, unless your home was custom built and you know that you asked for isolation valve and you plumbed it so that your hose bibs that are attached to your home are independent of your soft water conditioner, you are actually watering with soft water that's been treated with salt.
Which will kill your plants because salt kills.
Yeah, it just compounds the whole salt and alkali problems. It sends it over the top.
So you should be using it
Off the house,
on the house.
even though it's on the exterior of the house. If you have a soft water conditioner, unless you had it plumbed, custom plumbed during construction, it likely is going through, you know, your cold and hot water, going through all the plumbing in the house, and those hose bibs that are on the exterior are also soft water, or also treated with salt.
So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to
I thought you never asked. So your sprinkler system, right? It has been plumbed as such. Thanks for the question, because we were going to get to that, and it's very important. It ties right in to this water quality and the buildup of stuff in the soil. Your sprinkler system, the way that it's plumbed, it actually has a bypass, and it goes into your sprinkler system and then carries on into your house to your pressure regulator, and then into your soft water conditioner, so on and so forth, if you have one. Ideally, you would have another bypass in your home so that you could actually run maybe just, you know, you could actually do something in your home where you didn't have treated water in your home. But on the outside, you can think about the sprinkler system. It doesn't have soft water treatment. So it's been plumbed as such that you are before any of that goes into your home. So that system, those valves that are watering your lawns and your shrubs are not treated with soft water. So how do you address it? How do you mitigate the issue with, needing a hose bib? You go, if you don't already have one, you go into where your plumbing goes into your sprinkler system at the point of origin, we call it point of connection, and you plumb in a hose bib that you can use your hose to water anything in your exterior. Does that make sense? And I'm going to draw a diagram of it. Sorry. Uh-huh.
What she didn't say, I heard that.
Go ahead.
Washington State doesn't want you to do that because if you've got a meter that they have in front of your house, the right from the meter, it goes to the house or to the
The sprinkler system. So it's in the sprinkler system that you put in the hose bib. So it's after the meter.
yeah, he doesn't, he never gets salt water.
No, exactly. So that's where you would plumb it in, after the meter and into the main line of your irrigation system.
I'm still stuck back on watering your grass.
Mm-hmm.
So, our primary home is in Centerville, Utah, and we have culinary water, and it gets turned on April 15th, and it gets turned off on October 15th. So are you saying that it's okay if we turn our water off down here now? We only come down here like a week a month, and so like I've had it off while I've been here because we did have rain a lot of the days, but what do I do when I leave to go back home this week?
You leave it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the city I called somebody about water because we accidentally really watered and had a really high water bill, and so we got the new controller with the phone thing. But they said like, for these months, you do it this many times. For these months, you do it this many times. And so I think October to December or something, we're supposed to do it once or twice a week. So is there a schedule that you recommend?
Well, plants are like people, and there's no black and white method. And it's always, that's where we started with this, manually monitoring your system. Because yeah, I mean, they say they want you to conserve water, but in a lawn situation, if you followed that regime, you would have a lot of dead spots in your lawn, a lot. So it's more of like, if you want to conserve water, just turn your system off. And then when it's time to water, turn it on and run it and make sure that it's operating correctly, right? And give it a good soaking like the old school flood irrigation. If you can just keep that concept in your head about flood irrigating, like your lawn, if it's 15 minutes, like run it 15 minutes, like 3 times and really soak it and make sure that it's completely hydrated. Does that make sense? And then watch it, like this time of the year, then watch to see if you step on it, it doesn't spring right back, it's a little blue, right? You're okay. It's not like June, if you let it go that long, you're gonna lose it, you won't get it back for a while, or if at all. So right now, it's a great time. How long are you here?
I was
Are you leaving for the season?
and we'll probably come back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a good time to do that. I mean, you're not gonna burn your lawn up now. It's gonna be nicer to be cooler, and if you can practice, do a little practice right now and just kind of see what it is. On a lawn, the best way to know what kind of uniformity you're getting out of your system is to take like catch cans, like cat food cans, and put them in various places on your lawn, and then turn it on and see how much water is collected in each can. And then you'll see whether or not you're getting good uniformity. So you may need to change nozzles to get more water in one place than another. But I mean, again, this is not black and white. As the sun rotates and the aspect changes, everything changes, like different shade at different times of the year. That also goes high. Jane, I'm not going to give you a homework assignment for being late, but. But, and you just, that's why it's so good to just watch it manual, like watch what it does. Because it's going to be really different last week if it did rain, say for instance. But it did, but I mean, then it will be in 2 more weeks because the sun is rotating, it's changing now. And so some of the areas that were previously drying out sooner are not drying out as much now. So there is no absolute perfect method, but other than, making sure that you completely hydrate the area, the plant's root zone, plant being the lawn roots or in plant or trees, to the best of your ability. And that's why it's important to have a hose bib that you can actually just water with your hose. There's so much good to that because your drip system, a lot of times, your drip system is dated like we were talking about before, and the root systems actually choke off as they develop. They'll choke off some of the supply lines. And you never really know when you're looking at your plant if you've got deco rock, if it's actually getting any water or not. And that's why, this is a good time of the year. It's not too hot. Like maybe if you're worried about a certain plant, like pull some of the gravel back, turn the timer on, and see where that wet spot is going to be. And remember, when if your plant's on a little bit of a slope, and I mean just even a little, if it's not getting wet on the backside or the uphill side or the upgrade side of that plant's root ball, then it's probably only getting water on half of the plant because it just water follows gravity, of course. So there's a lot of little things that you have to look at. And I don't mean to overcomplicate it or scare you into going into fake plants or just cactus at your house. But it's a process, and you have to really look at each situation, each area, because the microclimates in your own yard with with your developing landscapes and how they mature and how the trees and the way that the sun hits everything, it's going to be changing all the time. So just, if you just kind of get a feel for that, I see Jane and her husband out there and they're doing their gardening constantly. They love to do their gardening and so they really relate to that kind of practice because they're there all the time. So they can see it and it's worth it because the extra work you put in, it's like any kind of a garden, the more you put into it, the better it turns out. You just get out of it what you put in. So it's work, but again, if you're having any questions about certain plants, like why does that look bad? We always want to start, and we're spending a lot of time on water, but it's very important it's because water, without knowing what our water's doing, everything else is really kind of like a fool's errand because we're not really knowing where we stand. We got to know what our baseline is for water.
I think one of the hardest things with the drip plants is that you have plants. You have palm trees, you have little cactus. They're all on the same drip line. They're all getting 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes. Some are drowning, some are starving. So I think that's a really hard thing to figure out. Is there any, you have separate stations?
Well, and ideally.
That's when I water with my hose.
Yes. So ideally, if you had a really dated and older home and the system was just causing you a lot of problems and it hasn't been updated in a long time, you could run different zones. Like you could have an irrigation company or landscape company come in and add zones to cover just your trees rather than what you have when you buy your home. You have when you move in, they've got one, like you said, one one valve for everything. And the only way to mitigate that water output is by emitters and the number of emitters, so gallon per hour emitters.
That's
So-
more of those around. You could put more of those around.
You could put more of those around. Now, please bear in mind that that these emitters are measured in gallons per hour. So there's 5 gallon an hour, 2 gallon an hour, there's 1 gallon an hour emitters, and there's even half gallon per hour. So if you don't run it a whole hour, so if it's let's just say it's a 1 gallon emitter, this is easy to remember, an easy way to do the math on it. If it's a 1 gallon emitter, 1 gallon per hour, it takes an hour to fill up a milk jug or a 1 gallon bottle. An hour. So if you got one of those on a plant, and it's a small plant, running it for an hour would probably be okay. Next to it, you got a big tree. That tree is getting kind of big and kind of mature, and the drip line for the branches, could be 2-3 feet out from the tree. And ideally, you want to have a 5 gallon emitter placed, evenly around that drip line, or which is where everything you see in branches is also below the roots, hopefully. But that's the soil profile you're trying to hydrate in a given, say, hour. So we've got systems that are so old that we run for 2 hours, we're still not getting enough out of them because the root systems have choked off or greatly reduced the flow in the ground of that particular zone.
So I noticed most of the emitters, they don't actually have a ditch, they just have a small diameter cut off and just the water thaw. But they're all placed right at the base of the plant. And what I've noticed is that some plants start to rot. And so, I'm looking at doing all my, and I don't want to, it's how in the world are we going to get this? Trees need infrequent deep watering, and bushes usually shallower and.
Okay, so does yours look like this?
Yeah,
Right,
wow,
just like this.
no emitters.
No, there's 2 places to put the emitter. One method is on the end. And the other method is on the supply valve. The reason this is done is because in a drought zone, these get damaged by rabbits and so forth. So if this gets damaged with an emitter on it, then you really do have an unregulated stream. So this is the method that is most preferable. But you gotta really, make sure that you can see this. And this is what the state is for, is to make sure that you can actually see water coming out of it. If it's like this, it's running down, you probably won't be able to see it. So you want to be sure that you get enough on it, which you can actually see it coming out up there. But this is like a 1 gallon. Yeah. So it takes an hour for this running to fill up a gallon. So if you're running 15 minutes, you're getting a quarter of that.
So would you separate the trees from the bushes?
If you're gonna redo your system, ideally, you'll wanna run the zone to cover light plants. If it's trees, you wanna have it just to water your trees. Like a tree, like a row of trees that you had, and you didn't have any irrigation system at all. You'd have these big wells, right, around, so that they pull water, and you hose your hose down. That's ideal. If you think of it in that aspect, you're gonna fill that basin up with water that's gonna evenly hydrate the roots around it, but we don't have that luxury, and you may not have that luxury if you live on a ranch, it's a subdivision. So you try to stimulate that with, 5-gallon emitters, spaced uniformly around, like we talked about on the
Yeah,
brief dump.
I don't think that's what landscapers people are thinking that. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, to do it, yeah, so,
Do it right.
yeah, to do it right, yeah. And as the systems age, it's worth, reviewing the system at, 10, 15 years, because, the way water is costing, somebody was talking about, okay, yeah, you can have a ruptured main line that's been pressed against, like your supply line can be pressed against by some roots, and it'll pop it, maybe a fitting or something. And it'll be weeping and you won't even know. It'll be like your toilet running all the time, but you can't hear it. And so you don't even know about it. Now, Washington City is pretty advanced. They can tell you if you've got something running 24 hours, which is super great for you all here. But, but until they report it to you, until somebody says, oh my gosh, the flag went off on somebody's home, and tell you about it, and say you got a 24-hour leak going, you won't know about it, and then you get this big water bill, and it's.
Well, I'm not here very much in water is utility expense right now.
Is it? How much is your water bill, don't mind me asking?
Well, it varies a lot, it's often in the winter. And, in the summer, we $300.
Did you say you have a lawn?
Yeah, I get that taken care of. Well,
The lawns are the ones that's what he said. It's not even pools don't do it either.
and the lawn is terrible. It's not a nice one.
Yeah, you would think with all the water you put on it, that it would be, lush and beautiful. So it's cool season grass. I mean, there's warm season grass varieties and there's cool season grass varieties. And in the desert, we're putting cool season varieties. That's the best view that we have, you see out here. And so to get it through summer, it's survival through summer. There's good 7, 8 months where it looks fabulous, but it's a struggle for sure with lawns. So I have lawns and I cut a lot of my lawns out. I'll deny it if anybody asks me. I did put some synthetic in, and I swore I'd never do that, but,
It looks good. Looks good.
yeah, the dogs can't destroy it. It's weird, It does get hot, there's that, but. But some lawn, I like to, cool things down, and, it's long.
But I've got a little spot, you can use just a little piece of lawn, it's now a good time to. Get that little spot.
The best time. This is the best time to do that. And just don't let your system water the whole yard. Just take your hose and go out and give it a supplement. Let it water normally like you do if it's not raining, like if you have it run early in the morning. And then just touch that spot, with your hose to get it established, get it rooted. Okay, any more questions about water?
Blue clay they have right there, my whole that is a mosquito jackhammer. That doesn't have absorb water and come up where the people.
And, this again, we have the worst soil conditions. So in that situation, it's almost like if you can just really regulate the water going there, because you're right, it makes a host for like grubs and beetles and riprap. I mean, it's a perfect environment for those kind of bugs, kind of pests. So.
When I took my lawn out at Chase Street, that follows the water too, so I had to do a whole lawn, 3-inch diameter, I said, took it all out, put the gravel down and planted the whole thing. But, it's a game,
Are you going to have a session before winter about how we make sure that these don't freeze?
We're gonna get into that in just a minute. I want to be sure, we're gonna go to that next, because that is very important. So thank you for bringing that up. I just want to make sure we got the water covered. Once again, once we get the water covered, then we can move on to other things.
But it's not water. Our sprinkler repairman installed a rock shield system. They're the downstream emitters and other plants and all these variables. And it comes on automatically based on weather, precipitation, about every 2 days. And that would be about 30 minutes for the shrubs every 2 days. And also the lawns would be watered every 2 days. But since my wife retired, she's been taking over the watering part. And she waters each day another run of the system. And so, and thinks that that's necessary in this heat. And we have a lot of things dying, and my theory is it's from too much water. And her theory is it's still not enough water, and particularly a problem in the back lawn where the sprinkler system is a different type in front, so it delivers a lot more water, and it cools on a certain area of the ground. And that area is completely dead, and my theory that's from too much water because of the cooling. And yeah, she still thinks it's from not enough water. How do you respond to that?
Okay, so just suppose that wet spot that holds the water, okay, let's just say it's the middle of summer and it's just sitting there. So that makes a host for fungus. And once it starts, or once it kills, I mean, the fungus is almost worse than drowning it out or having it get dry, too dry, because the crown still is alive and you can revive it if you rehydrate it and fertilize it. But when it rots out, you're pretty much done. So in the summertime, it's really hard because once it gets, you know, I mean, if it's wet all night long, it is definitely what you're saying. That is absolutely what's happening in that spot. So cool season grass in for 3 months or 4 months here in St. George or in southern Utah is really, you know, it's like, hold on. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I throw my hands up about August 15th and just hope that it survives, whatever it is, survive, you know, that I have the highest yield of survival of my lawn.
6 weeks,
Yeah, because we're in a monsoonal period where it's muggy. You know, if it rains in the afternoon, I've tried not to water it past 11 o'clock so it can dry out, so it doesn't sit wet all night. So.
Do you guys aerate here?
Yes, yeah. One of the only ways to mitigate a lot of fungus buildup or the host for fungus, which is wet all night, basically, is some aeration. It helps. It doesn't always fix it, but it does help. So, because the air is allowed to get into the root zone. So, okay, water. We're there. Is everybody good on that one for now? Yeah, Jane, it looks like you're going to end up with a homework assignment after all. Oh, boy. So thanks, you guys. So that question about protecting the plants in the winter. Okay, so there's a couple things. There's cactus, you know, and any of the succulent type plants that, you know, don't require a lot of water. And kind of going back to the water again. If those have a regular drip emitter on those, you're asking for problems. Yeah, it'd be better if they're established just to take those away completely and let them be on their own. Some of Highland, we call it the north side of Telegraph on Highland, where it goes to Crown King in that area, that part of the subdivision. Some of the areas that are open space in between the homes going along the Crown King side, which would be the south side of that coming down, you'll see open spaces. About 10 or 12 years ago, we landscaped those and we put in, you know, water tolerant plants. Put those in January. We hose watered them with the water wagon. We watered them to get them established for a couple of months. And they have not had any supplemental water since. And those desert plants look better than any other plants. One plant that really doesn't like a lot of water, but looks like it does, is like those red yuccas. They, you see what they look like when they're getting water all the time. They look good at first, and they just all of a sudden they just get big. And then they're just so big, that it takes, quite a bit of water. They get a lot of grubs and have problems. But the ones that we've just started, just let them kind of go natural after we kind of gave them a little bit of water to get them started, they look fabulous. It's the same thing. So these landscapers, when they put in plants, they're trying to keep, especially during the warm season, that's usually when it's getting done. They're putting the emitter right on the plant, or putting the water supply right on the plant, because there is no roots yet. So you've got to keep that that new root ball out of that black pot, hydrated. So you want to be sure that your plants, if they're desert plants, try to go to a half-gallon emitter, find a spot where it's going to just wet a little bit there, and just because they do need something to get started, they do give them some water. But here we go with the succulents and protecting the plants in the winter. So the first thing is plants that are not succulents. The way to protect those is to take your unfiltered water, unfiltered like unsoftened water, and hydrate those year-round green plants with a hose during the winter months when we have had long periods of no rain. Because what that drought and cold do to a plant is way worse than, they need water in the winter. So that's where it's good to turn your system off, just get your hose out and just go out and just hose water the plants, because it'll hold for a while because it's winter. But it also gets nice and warm. You get a nice warm day, you can even turn your system on and just turn it on for, 2, 3, 4 hours. It gives you a chance to see where the wet area is, where it's actually getting water. And you're also washing those salts and all of the chemicals. You're helping to wash them through like a good rain. So if we don't get a good leaching rain in the winter months, it's crucial to get through the winter to keep your year-round green plants like olives, oleanders. They do not like cold drought. Oh, those oleanders, they hate it. They start looking like they're not getting water. Well, they're dry and they're also cold. They need water in the winter months. So anything that's year-round green. We used to say evergreen, but that has it's associated more with like conifers, junipers and things like that. Go ahead.
After your stages are established, you cut it down on the water.
Yeah. So, let's see. Okay, so the succulent plants, back to that. Okay, so how do you protect it? So if you've got a cactus, some of the cactuses are very expensive. And if you bought, like a cactus plant in a 5-gallon versus a Texas Ranger, they're quite a bit more money. And when the way to protect them is you can cover them with an unsightly black pot that you had left over from a tree you planted or whatever, depending on the size of it. Like a 5-gallon plant fits good on some of the smaller cactuses that you fit inside of it, and it has holes in the top, so it's still getting light. But what that does is when it's warm outside, it attracts, the radiation will actually warm the soil around the plant in the winter. So looks hideous though, and you got to put a rock on it because it'll blow over. Another way to do that is to keep the plant soil warm and in the winter months is take like the weed fabric that's black, cut a circle around, put that on the ground. That's not as unsightly as the pot, right?
The weed barrier?
Yeah, it's anything black, really. I like weed barriers because you can stake down, right? And then it's the water, it can go through it.
You're putting that on your soil.
It's on the top of the rock, just temporarily protect the cactus. And what that does is it because of the sun, it'll warm the soil during this warm day, right? And keep those roots, from freezing if we get a deep frost. But there's the rest of the plant that's above ground, and you can use burlap on those, like, they just the old, like the old burlap bags. They sell the burlap for lawn clippings at the nurseries, and you can wrap them in those. We got a gentleman out in Ivans that's got saguaro cactuses like they have in Arizona, I mean, in the Phoenix area. And they're huge, and you don't see them here very often. But those, we take the pond liner, which is black, it's pretty thick, and they just have a cert, and he saves them all winter long. We just put it on the base, and then we wrap them in the burlap, and they just keep growing, and they're huge, and they really do well. And it's just when we're hitting temperatures that are going to be under 30 for over a week, is, you know, if it looks like, you watch your weather forecast, if it looks like it's gonna drop, it's time to protect your plants. Another way you can take little lights, just, you know, regular, any kind of a garden light or anything, just to put near it, and you can actually keep the ambient temperature around the plant. That's the same with some palms. You can actually, you know, there's actually, remember those spotlights that had the little grip thing, and you could grip on anything, they were like sunlight. You can clip those on a stake, and they'll keep that area warm. And that's just another trick. You put it on a timer, it's like a Christmas light, but just during those moments when it's going to be getting really cold, to protect your plants in the winter months. So does that help with the succulents and the other plants? Yeah. Okay. How do you? There's in the newsletter they had another topic was mulching for spring, and how to fortify or strengthen your plants coming into the warm season. So as early as January, you'll want to start adding iron, if you can, to your soil. And the way you do that is get a good iron fertilizer, and you use a broadcaster like this one. I didn't mean to bring my dirty one. I forgot I had it. And this diffusing idea is like if you were doing your lawns, right? You just take your iron fertilizer and you put it in, and you just sprinkle it over the plant, and you just rain it down, going all over the rocks and everything. Then you take your garden, wash out the plant, wash it into the soil. Okay, that's really helpful. Iron.
So it's what is that?
This is just a fertilizer broadcaster. This, yeah. The old name of them used to be called Whittaker. We used to have a red one, now that we stopped.
When you put that around the plants and the lawn. Well,
And you can do the lawn, yeah, of course, with the process.
If you have a fertilizing company, should they be doing that kind of stuff?
They can do injection fertilizing if you hire some of these landscapers actually have an injector. They put it in the ground, and they can put in pest control products, control, you know, grubs and other things in that mix.
The iron does stay in your cement. So
oh, okay.
don't leave it on your cement. Ugly marks.
Yeah, before you water, if it goes on your sidewalks, you want to be sure and blow it off or rinse it off quickly. It will, if it gets wet and sits there, it will stain. Yeah, I know. There's some specific iron, like chelated iron fertilizers that are liquid that aren't as like quite like that. But I like the granulars because they stay longer. I just kind of get into the profile of the root zone of the plant. When it starts to grow, and another thing you can do with the mulching, like the trees, shrubs, if you just scrape the rock away a little bit, just a little bit, and put bark, like even decorative bark around those plants, it's just so much better than having that hot rock up against trunks.
Yeah, we can do that.
Makes a huge difference. Sure. I'm sorry.
We can do that too.
Yeah, you can pretty much do that anyway. But before it starts getting hot, that's really the best time. Does anybody have a brand new landscape that's like a year old? Okay. Yeah, those landscapes, like any of those, like the rocks going right up to the plants, right? Looks tidy, but it's not healthy for the plant. So if you pull that rock away, and even if it's just a little grain, it's just better for it.
Anything your leaves around the base, anything your leaves around the base of the tree or something that keep moisture down or not.
You can, absolutely, yeah. That's a natural thing, so, did that, yeah. Okay, so that's spring, there's rooting hormone that you want to use here. This can also be a huge bonus. If you really want to get your root zones thriving, this is expensive by the bottle, but it goes a long way.
It's like an eighth of the teaspoon of gallon.
Here's the trick, is you gotta do it at least 4 times. So if you can do it 4 times, you're over the goal line. The more you do it, the more root mass you'll develop. Yeah.
What is it again? It's called.
Super thrive. Every nursery has it.
How much are you talking about?
Yeah, I think this is like 30. I don't remember that one. I buy it by the gallon and it's like a lot, but.
I use it about,
Yeah.
Because it's so useful. I mean, it's so helpful.
And when do you use it and how often?
Pretty much any time. But if you're trying to fortify your plants for, like right now, because it is the rooting period of the year, the best rooting period with this base from this developing root map from not overwatering. It is a really great time now.
Do you dilute it all or?
Yeah, of course, yeah, thanks, yeah. Oh, no, yeah, you'll dilute it down. Yeah. You can't burn with it, but you don't want to use enough that you can say, because it's very expensive. And it's great if you meter it in just as recommended, because you can just keep doing it, and it'll keep, like if you mix up a batch, you can do a month's worth without, I always just use my regular sprayer, and I do all the lawn area, and I just fill it up again, and I do it again. I just keep coating it. It's so great because it really changes everything. The roots are established, especially summer months. Those lawns that always struggle, like you could cut back a little bit on the water because your root zones are very much stronger. But again, I mean, you never know what the sun's going to do. One week it's too wet in one spot, the next week or next month it's dry.
So that's for lawns and.
So that's a good way for this.
Oh, I was gonna take a picture, so I.
It's the full name of
Earthright?
She did.
I got a first.
I know.
And you said put that in a sprayer, you do it, you did a sprayer,
I do.
then by itself, you put it down the roots.
You could put it like like with a shrub, I would mix it in a 5-gallon bucket, right? And then pour it around the root zone. A lawn, I would spray it.
Okay.
Would you put it on a new lawn?
Absolutely. You can never burn with it. It's.
That's really a lot of water.
Water, yeah.
I mixed up like 2.5 gallons of water, and water plants.
Yeah. That little bit of effort goes a long way. And trying to keep your pH balanced in the soil. Like the one thing we didn't talk about is adding sulfur during the winter months. You can't add it any other time. You ever get that white crusty stuff on your walls and stuff like that? And starting in about a month, you could put down just plain sulfur out of it. Soil sulfur. It's also available at the nurseries bags. Soil sulfur. put that down. That helps adjust the pH and it neutralizes, the salt. I mean, it's awesome. And it'll keep that white, effervescent stuff coming up, percolating up in the winter months.
It's liquid that you mix into a bucket, or is it granular?
This is, the one I'm talking about, the soil sulfur is actually granular.
Like
So you-
this?
A little bit, and then you broadcast it with the spreader, same thing, and then water it in after that. That really helps a lot with that, and it's so great for soil too, it really is. That will burn, so make sure you use it sparingly, but in the areas where you're just trying to control all that white cake that's coming up, just dump it and wash it in, because it'll neutralize that pretty good. That purpose, but the plants, just trying to keep that pH range. But it just goes off the chart, especially in the winter when we've had no rain. We've had drought in the winter, trying to water, and the soil is just full of all those impurities. It just fights pH, it's terrible.
Meaning, is it acidic or?
No. Yeah. Alpha, it'll break it up to 8 or 9.
Or our soil would do it up.
Absolutely. Heavy in salts, yeah, both. So. But the best defense too, and that of course is a good root system, but if you have to take your hose and leach the plant, like water the crud out of it, like get it all wet, then water it again, heavy, and then water it again heavy. What you've done is you've solidified all of that, and now it's starting to move through the soil. So that's why everything, not just because it rains, because rain has a lot more, just this, but when it rains a lot, it just washes that, neutralizes it, it just solidifies all the salts and so forth and washes it through the soil. So when we've had a good leaching rain, that's what we call it leaching rain, because the plants really perk up. And it's largely because we're getting rid of all the impurities in the soil.
Doesn't the rain actually have some?
It does. Okay, let me go back to our thing here. I had a couple of thoughts on that. Okay,
Can I ask a quick question?
you bet.
If you have, so we have a raised bed, and we had a garden problem,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're treating everything correct. Raised bed, we grow things that we eat in it. And so is it a matter of sifting everything, or just getting rid of the soil and starting over? Okay. Thank you.
Can you buy vegetables for a lot cheaper than you can grow them organically in your yard? Of course.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I mean, I'm learning a lot about vegetable gardening. You would think with 45 years in horticulture, I would know how to grow a vegetable garden. But I'm like tool-time Tim when it comes to it. I love it to death, like I just overthink it because I got all this science about how to do ornamentals and it doesn't work I'm so much better than I used to be, but in fact, I'm pretty proud of the vegetables I'm able to develop, and I absolutely do not use any chemicals. No, nothing like that. Got a mulching thing now, like anything that can be mulched, using that, just anything and everything that's organic, and my vegetables are awesome now. But it's St. George and it's 1 billion degrees and it's a long way up to the garden. It's 100, 10. I wish I had like a scooter that could take on the grass, just zoom up there because I don't always want to go up there.
I like to compost the grass, leaves and other stuff.
Uh-huh.
But fertilizer one, my wife likes to keep everything organic, so she doesn't want lawn clippings in there. Is that very bad to put that lawn clippings in for organic matter?
If we're going to the letter of, yeah, it's been fertilized with inorganic chemicals. So does it have a lot of residual value when it decomposes? No, not a lot. I mean, it's nothing like actually using, chemical fertilizers.
So it's very minimal and so you're not selling it organic. Should be safe to,
Especially if you're mixing it with stuff, it's diluted down and it's really great because it has a lot of nitrogen.
thank you.
I mean, the real extremists will not use fertilized grass clippings. And ideally, I'm not a big mulching mower guy. Like, I don't like the idea of the mulching mower any more than I like the weed and feed. It's really great for marketing purposes, but is it really beneficial? Like, so a mulching mower, what that does is causes a lot of thatch buildup if you never have to dump clippings. But it's throwing that thatch into the canopy and it creates a barrier. We all know what thatch is. They used it for repelling water on roofs, thatch roofs, so that the water wouldn't get in. Thing about it in a lawn situation is once it gets wet, it doesn't get dry once it gets too wet. And so it holds it in and it causes fungus. But I love using in the summertime because if we try to fertilize in the summer, we're perpetuating the fungus incidents. And so I use the mulching mower during the summer months and just let it throw that natural fertilizer right back into the lawn. It's so much better than trying to, I'm going to use iron fertilizer. Everybody's got all these ideas that they can use it. And then weed and feed is another one. Like, to use weed and feed on a lawn, okay, you gotta do, the timing's gotta be just right on it. I mean, you can't, you gotta wet the lawn slightly, and then you gotta broadcast it, and you gotta leave it so that it actually does something to the broadleaf weed. But what you end up doing with that is, you're paying a lot for the weed killer. And if a lawn's healthy, it doesn't, I mean, the weeds, have you ever tried to pull grass just out? And it's so much stronger than weeds. Weeds have a taproot. Grass, if you keep the grass nice and dense, it's way more, it protects from weeds. It just chokes the weeds out. The weeds just can't survive. But if you get one or two weeds, one or two gets under the wire, you could always dig them out. That's the old school method. There's not a lot of them. Give it another fertilizing, like ammonium sulfate, and then water it in, and that grass gets denser. And the stronger it gets, the more the weeds. The weeds don't care whether you water regularly or fertilize them or anything else. They just get going. But the grass, if it's kept and maintained, it'll really just, fight the weeds. That's why I don't like the weed and feed thing. We've used it before because of timing. When it gets too hot, we can't use anything on the broadleaves because of the volatilization of the chemicals. So we don't in the summer, like above 80. So we'll use weed and feed in an extreme case, but it means we didn't do our work before that if we've got that much happening. Dandelions are best controlled now. They're just, if they're coming out now, this is when you really address them the most instead of spring. But of course, you have to do something about that in spring as well. So, but winter weeds, going into weed control, there's all kinds of what they call pre-emergence, which is it's to sterilize the weed seeds. It's like birth control for weed seeds. And if you use a granular, there's some that are available over the counter and some of the hardware stores like Home Depot and others. You'll want to use a commercial grade. Right? It's from like IFA, that's a farming place, or Steve Regan over in the industrial area of St. George. You get a commercial grade pre-emergent and broadcast it just like that same thing in your rocks, right? And do it right before rain. If it doesn't rain, just take your hose, wet it down a little bit so that it activates it. And after a couple of years of doing this 2 or 3 times a year, sometimes you don't even have to do it that much, but there's areas that we don't even put it down anymore because there's just no way the weeds will survive. 4? Was that more than last year?
Oh, yeah, it's last year.
When you put down pre-emergence for my,
You can start now. And then,
Little brands, so don't use like maybe.
I think it's tremendously expensive for what you get.
your best bang for your buck is to use, something that has a broader spectrum of control from one of the commercial places.
So IFA has the.
They'll tell you, they'll just go right over the label with you. I mean, they take care of farmers and everybody. They'll walk you right over, read the label, tell you what to do. We're keep finding new bugs and things come around and new pests, and we go there and they just super help us all the time. They're really good there.
Yeah.
Totally an endorsement.
Do things like fertilizer companies use good stuff?
Well, if they have a good reputation and they have you on a schedule, they're really great, especially where you're not around, and you can't do it all the time.
I'm just trying to find a new company right now. So,
In bigger cities, and we're getting there, there are the true green lawn care people. There used to be.
yeah, they don't have here, true.
I know. I'm kind of surprised that somebody hasn't really got in and done that more. But there's the green. I haven't used them before, but I know that some of the places that use them are, you get on the program, just like your home bugs, they come quarterly or whatever it is. And they do pretty good. They really do.
So you're saying to take this pre-emergent and put it in your rocks?
Yeah.
Put it all on the rocks and stuff, and you're that way if you keep them up.
And the lawn. You can just go right across everything. You have lawn?
I have to. The little fake stuff.
It's good for that too, because some of the seams, some of the edges, the weed seeds will get in there. So we're going all winter long, the wind's blowing. We're not, it's blowing or, the seeds are just building up. And then all of a sudden we get a rain and it's the end of January and everything's cool. And then you get into February and they start popping and then you get a little more rain, more weeds blowing in because the weather's changing and it's March. And weed seeds are blowing in all over the place. Oh my gosh. So you want to get out ahead of it. What that really means is give it an application, end of November, and then give it another one at the beginning of January. Because we'll have those weird days. It'll rain a little bit and then it'll get warm. And those are the days to turn on your sprinkler system and check and make sure that everything's working right. You have months before that you really need it to perform as efficiently as possible. So those are the times. So turning off your system, the only time you really need to turn off your system is like when you're watching for those drops in the temperature. If we have temperatures that are starting to go down, they look like they're going to be down for a week under 32 degrees with wind going, you really do want to just turn your system off. I don't know what kind of a connection you have on your for your irrigation system. Some of the old homes have the old in-ground backflow prevention devices. That's to protect the city water. And those usually are never an issue for like freezing. But the ones that are above ground, you'll want to make sure the water doesn't get trapped in there. So they're better on because the water doesn't get trapped. And make sure you have good insulation around them because of those marginal nights and whatnot. Like those protective rocks and the other stuff on. Some people have put lights in them. Timer, because it keeps it heated in there. But don't just turn those off. Walk away, because if it freezes and it's like a really cold night and the wind gets going, you'll damage those backflow prevention devices because the water is trapped inside of it.
So don't take the main thing and turn it off. In the box.
If it's in the ground and it's not above ground, if you're in the ground,
The box.
in the ground. Oh, well, those are, you're okay to leave it on.
Wow.
If you're watering, if you're not gonna water, the thing about the ones in the ground is their valves get corroded.
Yeah.
And they're, at some point, and some of those you can go in front of them, in front of where it comes in from the main line and from the meter and put in a ball valve so you can turn them off if you can't turn those knobs anymore. But those you can turn off and they don't really freeze. It's the above ground ones that have been state regulation for 20 years now. So if you've got an old one that's in the ground, those are a lot more protected. It's good to put insulation or something in the box just to make sure they don't freeze, but that's extreme times. I've only seen it get that cold and stay that cold once in 30 years, so. It was a 50-year freeze. Any other questions? We did cover the 4 topics, so, which was the water, right? How to protect your plants in the winter, right? And what best watering practices as the weather changes. And soil preparation and mulching for spring growth.
Do you have any advice about pruning?
Yes, that's.
Oh, that's bad. That was, yeah. Okay, so trees, we'll start with trees. After about August 15th, they stop, really growing and they stop, their bark starts to firm up a little bit, the trees. You're almost safe to start trimming then because the bark isn't soft. What happens when the bark is soft when they're growing? You'll actually tear branches trying to prune. And it's just not good for the tree generally. But there are those branches that are, in the way or sweeping onto your house, breaking your tiles, whatever, and you don't have much, you can't really do a whole lot there, but you have to do the best you can and just be slow about how you cut them. Use a saw, don't use loppers, don't use chainsaws, use a saw, right? And 2-step it, like cut the heavy stuff off first, right? And then cut the little piece off at the end, but even the little piece might tear. So when you're sawing it, just wait, just keep it going slower and slower and then get underneath it and just try to trim it underneath if it's the middle of summer or if it's spring and they're really moving. You don't want to tear it because as soon as you tear it, that opens it up for, disease and bugs and stuff like that. So, but shrubs, so shrubs like roses, as soon as they're, it gets cold and it's like the temperatures aren't getting above 50 in the daytime, just trim the roses all the way back, whatever, and then just feed them and just let them sit until they're ready to go again. Other shrubs, what? Butterfly bush, yeah, you can cut those way back.
Chase
Trees, same family, yeah. Yeah, oleanders, yeah. Pretty, and those desert, what are they? Yeah, the desert willows. What is the rangers, the Texas sage? You can cut those way back too.
All the bushes you're talking about.
Oh, I wouldn't cut any of those yet. Yeah, I would wait till it's, it's the dead of winter and then cut it back. We've cut some back and they never came back.
So desert spoons, you wouldn't trim until January?
You can trim those pretty much anytime. Yeah. With a flamethrower.
They're not called.
Like pampas grass. You can listen to that.
Like you were saying, that's just not having a volatility.
Yeah, yeah. That's when you can start trimming stuff back. Another thing like your grasses, you've got the shrub grasses like the regal mist and those you don't want to trim until they're ready, until they start showing green coming out again. Their protection is their brown or golden grass around the plant. If you try to trim those and make them look pretty so they look good and tidy all winter long, they may not come back.
What kind of stuff? I'm sorry.
The grass like regal mist,
Oh, yeah.
Fruit trees.
fruit trees. I've heard people start trimming those after the fruit has finished.
So then wait, there's no.
But I like to wait on mine until it's like everything else, just asleep, and I don't have to worry about tearing the bark.
And how much do you go back?
Depends on the tree.
I've got a couple apple trees that are pretty tall, and it's like, wow.
The great thing about fruit trees, and I'm learning about these too, but I know that the more bulk I have and foliage
Yeah.
and leaves, the less, or the smaller the yield is in size
I'll say
of fruit and in numbers.
So you really want to have.
Plum trees are notorious for just getting thick, and I just really get in and get aggressive. Because I know I'm gonna get great plums no matter what. So I gotta keep the birds off of. And so whenever you have those old, somebody's trying to sell you or give you away or go to garage sales after Halloween, you know, those scary things that are battery operated, motion things.
Yeah.
Those are great for fruit trees. That's the only thing that I've ever seen that keeps the birds totally away, like the big owls are okay, the metal strips. Yeah, but those things scare the birds off. I'm just, yeah, because you go out there and you go, oh, look at that plum. Then the other side of it's like the ground or what.
Well, you get the Cooper Swamp stuff in your backyard.
Yeah, but that's a problem too. We had pheasants in our yard this year, which I was so surprised. Yeah, okay, any other questions for now? We're a little bit over, but that's okay.
You know, these good trees that got a little thin flower on them? Yeah. I've got two of them, and the bark's starting to split and peel off, that's natural.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the bark on those trees is starting to flip and peel off, is that natural?
Well, if it's a Chitalpa tree, the CHITALPA, yeah, Chitalpa. Those have a kind of, they have a expiration date, which is like 30 years max, 20 usually. They start looking a little funny about 15 years, largely because their roots are so invasive that they choke off their own water source. So first thing that happens is they get droughted, and there's just a lot of support when they're that big. And so then, you know, like the borers start to come, you know, they start getting rotten and you start losing branches. You cut a branch off, then all the energy goes another direction, and it gets heavy, and then it gets weak, and then it kind of splits. So those catalpas, it's best to, I've seen a gal up in that same area. She watered hers in the summer, and it was a beautiful tree. It had, you know, didn't lose all of its flowers and, you know, make a mess all the time because it wasn't getting droughted. I mean, it wasn't having a sudden, you know, moment where it's in shock from drought and losing everything. And it was always strong, so I didn't get it, but I haven't looked at it in a while. But that, I was so surprised that it's on a hill, so it's subject to all the wind and all the elements, and it still kept it watered because, you know, the drip line was installed by a landscaper that put it on top of the ball, and it never got moved out to, you know, the drip line in the root zone. So she just gives it supplemental water. It's great. And anytime you have a tree that's losing branches, just go to the strong side. It's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. Go to the healthy branches. Of course, cut off the other one if you can. And the dead one or the one that's really struggling. And cut off some of the live ones and try to redistribute the energy to kind of close the barrier area and try to hang on to that tree as long as you can. I mean, I love trees and I hate taking them out. And sometimes you just got to do it. But I give them the longest chance I possibly can. And it's the same with the tree family. Don't take a big branch off that's hitting your tiles without balancing it on the other side. Always take off from the other side. Make sure that they're rounded so that the energy is kept uniform throughout the whole canopy. Does that make sense? But you can close those barrier areas a lot by just taking, you know, some of the live branches, just cutting them back a little bit, and forcing that energy into the branches that are around the barrier area. That'll help you. Yeah. Any other questions? You guys are great questions too. So what's the number one thing we got to be concerned with? Where does it all start?
Water.
Water. For sure. Even the soil, you know, hydrated around those root zones is key. For sure. And pray for rain. If we get rain like this, oh my goodness. Isn't it great? We can, because the whole profile of the soil, root zone gets water. So it's good. Try to maintain that sort of thought and, it's like the old flood irrigation. When it rains good, it's just like old flood irrigation. It wets everything really well. And the roots have to chase the water and it just replenish that moisture in those root zones. So that's the number one thing. And then we start looking at why is it dying? Is it grubs? Is it this? I had a client the other day say, so we treat before we put the lawn down. So for grubs, because I heard it has grubs in it. I go, yeah, there's grubs everywhere, including the new sod. So so every shrub that you plant new, make sure you put in a good granular pest control, so that it has a fighting chance, especially those succulents, the ones that don't have real crazy roots, like cactus and stuff. It really need that. There's weevils now. These guys, they're just tenacious. Those guys, I mean, they're relentless what they do. The grubs are second place on that. If you've got a severe grub problem, you definitely have some great growing conditions, but you're probably too wet. So they love it wet.
So should we be putting that granular pest control in under all the plants? Do we think so? How often?
Couple times a year, at least. Not now, because we just have such weird conditions. We turn our sprinkler systems on because we don't get any water. So we're running in a lot more. Like there was a time when your system was putting out the right amount of gallons per hour because the systems were newer or whatever, and you would run for an hour. Now, and then in the summer, it would be like 3 times a week. We'd run it for an hour and it was fine. But now they get choked off and we've had so much drought that we have to water them 4 or 5. I've got some systems now that are 7 days a week in the summer and 2 hours, and it's still not enough. Right, Kane? It's just there's something wrong here.
I have another story about it.
So again, I mean, the best thing you can do for yourself on a system that's dated and you're not getting enough water, you're concerned about it, is go ahead and use your hose. Get a system that's, that's before your filter system, before your soft water system, and just put a hose bib in, and any landscape guy, any plumber, anybody can come in and put one in, and it's in a valve box at the ground level. Or this, I brought this along. This is a freeze-proof hydrant. This you can keep charged all year long because it has a waste feature at the bottom. So there's no water that gets trapped. A lot of folks will have it for the pool. You've seen these around at ranches and other places. It's just called a frost-free hydrant. And all the water just drops in the bottom after you use it, but it gives you live, fresh water, not filtered, not through a system all year long. And it can sit above ground. So that's a great item to have. They can put that in their front. They look kind of obnoxious. This is a 2-foot berry, but there are some more shallow ones. I don't think there's 1-footers, but this actually has to be down a way. So you'd only have about that much exposed at ground level.
I have to tell you, Paul, that we lived in our house for 8 years, and we have,
Oh, nice.
and I came to the seminar last year and showed that,
Uh-huh.
and I finally knew what it was for.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I bet you were,
7 years.
I bet you were excited to have it. That's okay. I mean, I had my truck for 12 years before my son showed me that I actually do have a USB port in the glove box. Of course.
Oh, totally.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.